Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 134, and for this one we play a 5-10 session at Bellagio here in Las Vegas. There are a lot of big hands, there's a few all-ins, I get aces a couple times. I think you guys are going to enjoy it a lot, but before we get started I have a few announcements to make. The first one is that it's my dad's birthday today, so happy birthday to him. He's a big reason why I started playing poker. He actually didn't want me to play for a living, but that probably motivated me to try and be as successful as I could. I used to think the best way to get better at the game was by reading poker books. So I have a ton up here on the shelves. I've read and reread them, and they definitely helped. But at this point, training sites are by far the best way to go if you're trying to improve your game. So they're regularly updated, and pokercoaching.com is one of the absolute best ones. They're giving away a free 5-day trial with premium access to their site. I'll have a link down below in the description box. Definitely take advantage of it. There are all kinds of tools at your disposal, including pre-flop guides for tournaments and cash games. If you're not using those, then it's going to be very tough to be competitive in almost any game. So you want to take a look at them, memorize them, and apply them when you're actually playing. There are push-fold charts for tournaments, which are great. There's a 30-day tournament prep challenge, which helped me a lot during the WSOP this summer. I had 9 cashes, including one in the main event. So that was a really fun experience for me, and if I hadn't looked at that 30-day tournament prep challenge, then I wouldn't have had nearly as much success as I did. There's also cash game stuff. There's I think a 14-day cash game challenge. There are interactive hand quizzes, and that's by far the best and most fun way to learn. I did 4 hand quizzes myself that I created, so you can check those out, and then the rest are done by absolute superstars in the game. Jonathan Little is a coach on there. He's a 2-time WPT champion. James Romero, who has millions in tournament earnings. Matt Affleck, who has some really deep runs in the main event and a ton of other tournaments. And Faraz Jaka, who is a WPT former player of the year. So it's just crushers of the game, and there's many other coaches. They're giving years of their accumulated knowledge condensed down into more digestible forms and shorter videos. So you definitely want to look at those. You don't have to give any credit card information or anything when you sign up for this free 5-day trial. So there's no risk to you. Just take a look for yourself. All right, let's go ahead and get started. It's an absolutely beautiful day in Las Vegas. I always love driving down the strip. It's nice to see it filled with cars and people again. Today we're going to Bellagio. It's a special place in general, but particularly for poker players. At some point we'll be in Bobby's room playing the nosebleeds. We'll have to work our way up though. This session we're playing 5-10. I buy in for 1,500, which is the max. I take my seat, and the very first hand we get, well, you know. We're playing 8-handed. Under the gun opens to 30. Under the gun +1 calls. 3 betting or calling both seem reasonable. I call. The big blind calls. We go 4 ways to the flop. It comes King 7-5 with 2 spades. Big blind checks. Under the gun pre-flop raiser checks. He's the person that I was most concerned about, but it appears that he doesn't have much. Under the gun +1 checks. It's extremely unlikely that he's going to have a hand better than mine. I'm probably best, and there won't be many turn cards that I like, so I bet 60 for value and to clear out any equity that my opponents may have. The big blind folds. Under the gun folds. Under the gun +1 thinks that I might be trying to steal it. He calls to keep me honest. We're heads up. Again, I'm not very concerned that he has a strong hand, otherwise he would have bet flop himself. The turn is an 8, under the gun +1 checks. This is a rare spot in which I go for another street of value, second pair, because I get the sense that I'm getting looked up light by a weaker pair or a draw of some sort. I bet 110, the player is not going away that easily. He calls pretty quickly. The river is the 3 of diamonds. The opponent checks. If he has a misdraw, he's not going to be calling anything. If he has a pair worse than mine, he may not call a third bet either. I'm content to check back. The player says that he has a pair, then reveals that he has ace-7 offsuit. Good news for us because we can beat that. Right away, the session gets off to a great start. We're up over 250 after the first hand. Here we have ace-8 suited on the button. Under the gun limps in, as does the middle position player, and the cutoff. We must punish him. I raise to 50. Small blind wants to play a big pot. He 3-bets to 200. Folds back to me. Could actually be best here. Not likely, but at least some chance. If not, I'm in position and should have at least 3 outs. I call, we're heads up, the dealer puts out Queen 6 deuce rainbow. We have a whole lot of nothing except 1 over and a backdoor flush draw. Small blind down bets to 150. This is a cheap price, and I'm not a quitter. I call to see what develops on the turn and potentially to steal this away from my opponent, especially if another diamond comes. I don't have to worry about that since the turn is an ace, we have top pair, small blind checks, I'm not sure if I'm good. I could still be up against ace king, for example. I check back for pot control. The river is a jack. The opponent checks. I don't know what worse hands than mine will call a bet. I check back. I'm glad to see that the small blind has pocket tens. We sucked out on him. We turn over the winner. The pot is pushed in our direction. Luck seems like it's on our side today. Next we pick up ace 10 of diamonds under the gun +1. Under the gun limps in. I raise it to 40. The button calls. Under the gun calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's king 7-6 rainbow. We have 1 over and some interesting backdoor draws. Any 8, 9, jack, or queen will give us a gutter. Under the gun checks. Being a pre-flop aggressor is a powerful thing. I bet 70 with plans to continue firing if I pick up equity on the turn. The button calls. Under the gun folds. It's heads up. The turn is the queen of diamonds. It's a dream card. We have the nut flush draw and a Broadway draw. No chance I'm checking this. I bet 200. I don't mind if I get a fold or a call. We get neither. The button raises to 600. This is not ideal. It's 400 more for me to call. There's a lot of money in the middle and the button has about 650 behind, so the implied odds are a big factor if I can hit one of the many cards that'll give me the nuts. I call. The pot is big. Put out the jack of spades one time. I'll be such a good person forever if you do. Nope. The river is the 8 of clubs. We had the world and now we've got 2 worthless pieces of plastic. I check. The button announces that he's all in. Nice hand, dude. Nice hand. We have no choice but to fold. It hurts to watch as those chips go in a direction that's not towards us. Now we're stuck 300. I add on once I get in the main game where I pick up pocket jigs for the second time. Under the gun opens to 40. He's gonna have a narrow opening range from that position, consisting of some hands better than mine. I wanna keep his hands worse than mine in. I call. We're heads up. The flop is 9-5-3 rainbow. I check to the aggressor. He maintains that aggression, betting 70. Pretty big bet for such a dry board. I call, not exactly loving it because I'm a little confused. The turn is another 3. There are 2 clubs out there. I check. Under the gun continues with the big bets. This time it's 210. The player has about 600 in his stack. If I call here, I can't imagine folding on the river for around 400 more. A big part of me believes that I'm beat, but I just can't fold in this situation. I don't want to see any more cards. I grab a stack of black chips and announce that I don't exactly get snap called, but I do get called somewhat quickly, which means I'm likely not in good shape.
Probably had me beat.
Pick up the camera to see if I can capture the dealer putting out one of the last 2 jacks on the river to give me a full house. Instead, the river is the 10 of clubs. It's the absolute worst card in the deck because the best case scenario was that the opponent called my jam with pocket 10s or a flush draw. Those hands all have me crushed now. I turn over the jacks because he called me. I'm waiting to see him turn over the winner. Wait, why isn't he turning over his cards? What do I even beat? He gives me the nice hand pat on the table, then he throws his cards into the muck. Somehow we win a big pot and stack the opponent. I didn't think that was possible. With that hand, I'm back in the positive and we're just getting started with the exciting hands. Pick up king jack of spades on the button. I open to 30, small blind 3 bets to 125. I have suited Broadway cards in position. I call. We're heads up. It comes jack 10-8 rainbow. We have top pair with some backdoor draws. Small blind bets 100. This is the same player that 3-bet me in the must-move game in a similar spot with pocket 10s. I call. The turn is the queen of spades. Interesting card because we no longer have top pair, but we pick up a flush draw and an open-ended straight draw. The small blind slows down and checks. Checking back seems too weak with how much potential my hand has. I should have more 9s in my range than him anyway. I bet 210. This doesn't faze the opponent. He makes the call. The river is a 4. It's a complete blank. Small blind checks. This is a spot where I should probably bomb it to rep a straight. I wimp out and check back since I have at least some showdown value, even though I'm not sure what I could be beating. The opponent turns over ace-queen offsuit. We get a bit unlucky that he made a higher pair on the turn, and then we didn't improve on the river. If we bet large, we probably could have stolen it from him, but we have no heart. We do have 2 kings though, and one of them has a heart. The hijack has a short stack. He opens to 30. I 3-bet to 100 in the cutoff. The hijack calls. We're heads up. I don't know much about him other than he's a rec player. The flop comes 7-6-5 with 2 spades. The hijack checks. He only has 445 left in his stack. I want to slowly get all of it. I bet 110. The hijack calls. No real idea what I'm up against, but I imagine draws would have jammed. The turn is the jack of clubs. The hijack checks. He has 335 in his stack. I don't want to scare off ace high or 1-pair hands. I bet 150. If he somehow has a set or has me beat another way, he's going to double up because he's just really short. The hijack calls. The river is the 8 of hearts. There are 4 to the straight out there. The hijack jams for 185. This is the worst. He's just an odd dude, and I can't fold for that amount against him. I figure that I'm up against pocket 8s or pocket 9s, and I'm beat, but I I congratulate the opponent before seeing what he has while making the call.
Listen.
The congratulations was certainly in order for the player because he turns over the old 9-5 of diamonds. I'm not sure what he was thinking pre-flop opening and then calling a 3-bet with it, but he gets a pretty great flop with bottom pair and a gutter. Then he drills the river. When that kind of thing happens, my mind breaks a little bit. I suppose that's poker, gotta move on. I pick up ace-4 suited under the gun +1. The opponent who cracked my kings previously limps in. I wanna isolate him, I raise to 40. He calls, the flop comes king 10-9 with 2 hearts. We brick that pretty hard. Under the gun checks, I check back. The turn is an ace, we improve the top pair. Under the gun checks, I bet 40. The opponent calls, the river is a 4, we have top and bottom pair. Under the gun checks, it's important that we crush his soul for beating us with a 9-5 suited. I bet 150. After tanking for some time, the player makes the call. I show the winner. He's a little in disbelief. Eventually, he turns over ace-8 offsuit. I rivered him and got some Bradley dollars back. He rivered me for a good chunk more in the king's hand, though. Several orbits later, I pick up pocket aces in the hijack. Under the gun opens at 30. Under the gun +1 is a wild player who's in for multiple buy-ins, but now only has 135 in his stack. He calls. I'm raising it up. I make it 130. Under the gun calls. Under the gun +1 calls, leaving himself with $5. The flop is king 8-3 rainbow. Under the gun checks. Under the gun +1 is all in for $5. That's intimidating. I raise to 170. Under the gun folds, it's heads up. The turn is a 10. The river is a 7. Under the gun +1 reveals his cards. He has 6-3 offsuit. We have that beat. Note that this opponent is different from the player who called my 3-bet earlier with 9-5 suited. We're about to get involved in lots of hands with Mr. 6-3 offsuit since he's perpetually rebuying, so buckle up. Pick up pocket sixes on the button. The hijack limps in. This is the 6-3 offsuit dude. The cutoff limps in after. This is the 9-5 suited guy. It'd be great to go to a flop in position against just them. I raise to 50. The small blind wants to get into the action. He calls. The hijack and cutoff both call. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It's 10-4-3 rainbow. The small blind, hijack, and cutoff all check. I check back. The turn is the 4 of hearts. The small blind checks. 6-3 offsuit bets 180. You can literally have any 2 cards here. The cutoff folds. If I was facing a bet from any other player, I'd probably fold. Here I call because I have a better shot than usual to be good in this situation. The small blind luckily folds. It's heads up. The river is a 5. The hijack checks. This pot is pretty big. I'm happy to check back. The hijack turns over queen 3 offsuit. He apparently loves offsuit hands containing 3s. We have him beat again. Just a super sick cooler for him. Not much he could do differently at any point in the hand. He loses the minimum, and by that, I mean the maximum. Next we have ace-queen offsuit in the small blind. The hijack limps in. The cutoff is the wild player from the previous 2 hands, raises to 40. The button calls. I 3-bet to 200. The hijack folds. The cutoff thinks it over and calls. The button folds. I'm heads up with the player I want to be heads up with. If I can make a pair, I should be able to win piles. The flop comes king 10 deuce with 2 spades. We don't make a pair, but we do have a gutter with 1 over. My opponent called a 3-bet with queen 3 offsuit earlier, so ace high has a good chance of being in the lead currently by itself. I down bet to 180. Difficult thing about playing someone like this is that they rarely fold with a pair or any kind of draw. This person in particular bets frequently when you check to him as well, which is especially difficult. The player calls, no idea what I'm up against. The turn is another deuce. Ordinarily, I think it's a blank, but against this guy, he may have just made trips. I check, I just want to get to showdown now. The cutoff bet's 180. Well, I can't fold for that price. I'm in there, making the call. The river is the 4 of spades. The flush draw gets there. I can't beat much other than busted straight draws. I check, the cutoff snap checks back, turn over my cards. It takes a little while for the opponent to realize that I don't have anything. Eventually, he turns over 10-9 offsuit. He flops middle pair. I couldn't improve. He wins too many Bradley dollars for me to be happy with. Can't seem to make a big hand in any good spots this session. I call my friend who's a doctor. He tells me that the remedy for that is pocket aces. That's what we have in the small blind. The hijack opens at 30. Our nemesis from the last few hands calls in the cutoff. My opponents today have not been in the mood to fold at all. For that reason, I 3-bet to 180. In a typical game, I'd make it 150, so I went larger than normal for maximum punishment. The hijack folds, cutoff calls as I expected he might. We're heads up in a large pot. The flop comes 7-3-3 rainbow. It's a dream flop because the range that I put the cutoff on consists of I have no idea. This might actually be a terrible flop. Who knows? This guy likes to play 3s. That's scary. I see bet for 150. I want to keep the player's high card hands in. That'll be drawn close to dead. The cutoff takes the bait and calls. The turn is a jack. I'm praying that he somehow has one. It's time to pump up the heat. This is the first really good situation that I've been in since before Florida. I slide in a bet at 350. I want to set up a river shove. I imagine this particular player will call if he has any pair. Sure enough, he does call. The river is a 4, not too worried about it. I have the opponent barely covered. He has 650 in his stack. I announce that I'm not 100% sure what I'm up against, but I'm fairly certain that I want to call. The cutoff comes through and puts in a calling chip. I flip over the aces. They're put out in front of the opponent for him to see. He doesn't seem very happy. He's holding onto his cards, so I don't see what he has. We get a count for my stack. I indeed have him covered. After what seems like forever, the man finally concedes the election. The hand. A massive pot is pushed in our direction. We're in for 2,900 total. We have 2,800 in front of us, so we're actually still stuck a little. Not to worry, dudes. We have pocket aces again. The same suits and everything all 3 times. The trick is that when you get them, you don't give them back to the dealer. We're in the big blind. The button raises to 30. The small blind calls. I 3-bet to 160. The button makes the call. This is not the wild player. That guy is taking a short break to go to the ATM. He'll be back though. Small blind folds, it's heads up. The dealer puts out 8-6-4 with 2 hearts. Certainly a better flop for the opponent's range than mine, but I'm gonna hammer until I get raised. I bet 170, the button calls quickly. There won't be many good turns for me. The dealer puts out the king of spades. That one actually isn't bad. I would've gotten 4-bet if he had kings. I bet 350. Maybe I'm up against ace king of hearts and can stack the button. The player calls. The river is the 9 of clubs. Not a bad run out. My opponent has about 800 in his stack. Let's see if he wants to play for all of it. First, I want to show you how beautiful the Bellagio ceiling is. Wow, incredible. Now we put in enough to cover the opponent. I don't get snap called, that's always a sweat. Now I want to get called, the player's considering it. He then reluctantly lets his cards go. We're awarded all the chips that are in the middle. I was down a buy-in early on, but knew that I was in a great game, and if the cards went my way, I'd get it back. We're up to a stack of 3,500, which is a profit of 600 at the moment. The session doesn't end here. We have pocket 8s in middle position. Our boy is back from the ATM and limps in from under the gun. Under the gun +1 who got us with a 9-5 suited limps in. I raised to 60. These guys don't like folding. Under the gun +1 both call. The flop is 4-3-3 rainbow. Ordinarily a good one for us, but we know that under the gun loves 3s. He checks. Under the gun +1 checks. We have an overpair and need to protect our equity. I bet 70. It's not too large since we likely have these guys dominated and don't mind a call since we're in position. Under the gun flats. Under the gun +1 lets his cards go. We're heads up. The turn is another 4. Not great because there's a decent possibility that I'm up against a boat given what I know about this dude. He checks. I check back. The river is another 4. Very interesting card. There's a boat on the board. Under the gun slides in 200. No chance that I'm getting away from this. I call. The gentleman has queen 3 offsuit again. He flop trips, turned a boat, then got counterfeited on the river and is playing the board. We suck out to win a nice pot. I've been playing here for 7.5 hours. Had to cancel dinner plans because the game was just too good to leave. That decision has paid off because I've had nearly a 3K swing in the right direction. I've got over 4K in front of me. I'm up more than 1,100 on the day. Later I pick up ace king offsuit in the small blind. Wild player opens a 30 in the cutoff. He's my favorite. The button calls. He's my second favorite. I 3-bet to 150. I actually considered flatting because against these players, you make piles of cash. Once you actually make hands and can take them to value town, you don't want to bluff them, so it's kind of better to make a pair first before inflating the pot, but not 3-betting in this instance also seems absurd. The cutoff calls, the button does not. We're heads up. The flop comes 8-6 deuce with 2 spades. Not what we hoped for, but I assume we're up against 2 random cards. Pretty sure I saw this guy get the showdown with a get out of jail free card earlier. Anyway, the point is that ace king is going to be the best hand a lot. I shouldn't have to bet too much to get worse hands to fold. I toss out 130. Of course, this guy never folds ever. He makes the call. The turn is a 10. I still think that I could be good. I've seen the player call 1-bet in hands against other players and fold quickly to bets on later streets. When it gets checked to him, he typically bets. I don't want to be in that situation. For that reason, I take the initiative, betting 250 myself. Doesn't do the trick. The player calls. Let me make a pair one time. Nope. The river is a 9, there are 4 to the straight, I can't rep one and don't want to put any more money into the pot with a guy who could easily have a strong hand or call me down with something else silly. I check, I'm not getting a showdown for free, cutoff bet's 400, that's frustrating. I fold, I'm sure that I had him beat pre-flop and he got me again. I certainly got him for more money overall, but it's just tough to make a pair better. He leaves shortly after and then it's my turn to head out, booking a solid comeback win. Absolutely wild session today. I ended up winning $600 over a little over 8 hours, and things were not going well in the beginning. I just couldn't get anything going. The games are great, but it just didn't. I made 0 sets today, and just couldn't get any big hands in the right spots for the first 6 hours or so, and then at the end got aces a couple times, and you know, got paid off, won some big pots, turned it around, and just really happy that I was able to finally make some big hands, because it was rough, man. I was stuck 1,500 at the low point. I was up 1,100 at the high point, and then I lost that last hand with ace king, but that happens. Wild game. The next day, one of my poker dreams comes true. I'm invited to the Poker Go studio where they're filming high stakes poker with one of the sickest lineups of all time. I hear that one player will be there who's my absolute favorite since I first started playing poker in high school. That's Mr. Phil Ivey. I've never talked to him before. He's awesome and even agrees to do a quick interview. I'm nearly overcome with excitement, but I'm trying to purposefully downplay it as much as I can. Here with the man, the myth, the legend, Phil Ivey, taking some time away from the high stakes game to talk to you guys on the vlog. Thanks a lot, man.
All good.
So a lot of people are beginners in poker who are watching the vlog. Do you have any tips or anything, any advice?
Man, play at the level you are comfortable with, and don't overextend your bankrolls. Make sure you know poker is a fun game. It's a great hobby, and make sure before you start playing professionally, you are ready. That would be my advice.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
It's a surreal moment for me being on the set. I'm walking around behind the scenes, and Tom Dwan is a few feet in front of me, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars handed to him as he joins the rest of the lineup. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but you should definitely watch for yourself as Ivey, Helmuth, Dwan, Bryn Kenny, Polk, and several other huge names battle it out. New episodes will be available every Wednesday on Poker Go starting December 16th. I have a link in the description box. Use the promo code BRAD to get an extra $10 discount on a yearly subscription. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. And also hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time I put out a new video. Be sure to take advantage of the free 5-day trial of pokercoaching.com with some of the best players in the world, giving away their knowledge for free at this point. And there's no credit card information that's needed or anything, so you just literally click on the link, fill out a quick form with your name and minimal information, and see if you like it. Also, use the promo code BRAD for the Poker Go app. That way you can see what happened on the episode of High Stakes Poker that I was at with Phil Ivey, Doug Polk, Bryn Kenny, a bunch of other guys, Tom Dwan. Man, that was so cool to be there, and I'm really excited for that to come out. I'm definitely going to watch it. Hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.